Words matter. Words matter with Chef Don Splain. Yay! Hey there, everybody. This is Chef Don Splain, and today on Words Matter, we're going to discuss bone broth, and there seems to be some confusion, and I see recipes for bone broth, but the reason why I bring this up is, when you have bone broth, is it redundant? Are you saying the same thing twice? Or is there a difference? In the culinary world, there's a difference. Bone broth is kind of a redundant saying because in the parlance of the kitchen, we have stock. Stock is made with mirepoix, it's made with bones. We can really get into the history of everything and delineating a white stock from regular stock as far as are the bones roasted, are the bones not roasted, the age of the animal, all of those things in classic culinary methods play a role in what you're going to call the final product. And when the word bone broth was starting to be thrown around, I was like, oh boy, here we go, because it really leaves the marketing department of companies able to basically make a product, sell it to people really not know what they're talking about, and then paying an exorbitant amount of money for really not much of anything. Uh, what's the difference between your bone broth and a bouillon cube? Is it taste? Is it flavor? Of course, we want it for the end all be all protein of it. But when we think about it, how much protein is in the liquid in the kitchen, it's not quality stock unless it is solid at room temperature. And what I mean by that is you pull it out of the refrigerator, it's on the counter, or you chill it and it turns into a solid. That means that you've drawn enough protein out of what you're doing in order for it to set. That is key. And mind you, I'm speaking from this as a saucier. In the kitchen, saucier is in charge of all the sauces, all the liquids. They're in charge of all basically true saucier is in charge of all the ingredients in the kitchen and ingredient quality. But uh, as a saucier, when you're making your stocks, and this is just a stock, with your bone, there should be enough cartilage and protein compounds in that stock that it will congeal and it will be a solid. Uh, and this can be done by one of two ways. Basically, how it should be done is, and how I've done it in the past is, whenever I make my stock, if it's with roasted bones or not roasted bones, everything goes into the pot and I bring it up to temperature in a slow fashion. And the reason why I say that is once you get above 145 degrees, you lock the protein into whatever you're cooking. So if I roast my bones will go into the stock pot. I will put ice into my stock pot, and then I'll put the requisite amount of water in. Then I slowly bring it up to that 145. After that 145 mark, then it's blowout. Then, turn it up, get it up to a simmer. Remember, from a culinary standpoint, everything that you see floating away in steam or in vapor is flavor. How do I know this? If you smell it and it smells good, that's flavor leaving your liquid and going into the air. And that's why when I see these really protracted cooking times for bone broth, I'm just like, that must taste horrible because you cooked off all the flavor. So yeah, okay, you're getting the protein, but what's the joy in life if all the taste and flavor is gone? So basically, once you reach that 145, push it up to a simmer, and then let that simmer go until you reduce it until it comes, above or equal to your bones. And I say that because typically we would in a stock pot, doesn't matter how big it is, but we would go 2 to 3 inches above whatever bones that we're cooking, do the process of getting it up to a simmer, and after that simmer, we just let it go. Sometimes we may add a little bit water to extend that cooking time to basically fortify some of the uh, compounds, but that's pretty much what we would consider a stock. That stock is out, it's cooled, and like I said, in the refrigerator, it should set up. Fish stock would set up, chicken stock will set up, veal stock will set up. And the reason why I say veal stock is commercially, veal is what you use for stock because it has all the cartilage, the collagen, all those protein compounds that we're looking for that for the viscosity that we need to make really good nouveau cuisine sauces. And I say nouveau cuisine sauces because typically your old school sauces and reductions or sauces before reductions were basically thickened with some kind of starch and then reduced. Ferdinand Point, what he did, and basically changed the face of cooking into what we call nouveau cuisine. Basically, what he did is he took and he eliminated the starch and basically got the viscosity through reduction. And that's where a lot of sauces are today, are done in that fashion where viscosity is achieved through reduction. That being said, that's stock. When we move over into the wheelhouse of broth, that is culinarily a different term. So bone broth, we have bone, which is the stock, and then broth, which is meat fortified, which means at that point, I'm taking the bones, I'm adding the meat. This can be done in the beginning stages, and this can be done afterwards. After you make your stock, then you fortify it with the meat. So what's the difference between adding the meat before after, like what in the stock making process? The general consensus is like once you make your stock, what type of broth you're going to be making on the back end of it. And so typically most broths will be made, the bone and the meat will be added and kind of cooked together, and you'll make your broth throughout the process. Versus afterwards, if I'm making another dish and I want to push the flavor one way or another, it allows me to make that decision at that time. So I'm not necessarily worried about what the combination is going to be, beforehand because I'm separating it for my final product. And so that is what a true broth is. A true broth is stock made with bones. In my view, it's not in my view, it's you're making bone tea if it doesn't congeal. So if it doesn't congeal, it's bone tea. You wasted time, you wasted money, you wasted ingredients making something completely inferior. Otherwise, you do it the proper way, you make your stock. Uh, and that's stock. Broth is broth. So whenever I hear bone broth, to me, when I heard this years ago, it's just set off all sorts of marketing red flags of, oh boy, here's a rabbit trail that we're going to go down. And then you come across all of these recipes for these, 80-hour chicken bone broth, cook it to leaching out minerals and making sure you put vinegar in it and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, you do you, but you know, if I'm going to make something for a client, or if I'm going to make something to put into my dining room, the terms are going to be the terms. If it's going to be made with stock, it's made with stock. If it's going to be made with broth, it's going to be made with broth. And then we get into this whole other level of consomme and coulis, which are two different things that don't even get me started on coulis because that's been bastardized since the 80s. When someone decided they didn't want to call it raspberry sauce, they wanted to call it raspberry coulis. Uh, and it's it's farcical at best. But we'll get into more terms. If you have any suggestions of terms you'd like to dive into, the next one that I dive into is going to be what is it? Dry brine. That one gets me like every single time. So hope you enjoyed this. Again, if you have any questions, just shoot me a line. If you disagree with me, I don't care. History's history, and I'm just relaying it. So happy cooking and have a great day.